I was actually filling out something in the doctor's office, a new patient. We got his application, 15 pages. By the time you're done, you're dead. But anyway, anyways, I'm filling out all these pages, and I feel like I'm really all I have is made up of his numbers. My address, my phone number, my height, my weight, my social security, my cell phone, my mobile phone, my email. Everything calls numbers. That's all I am. I mean, whatever. Anyway, at the end of the thing, I realized that filling that out, then you got to fill out this thing where you agree at the bottom. I fill out. I start talking to my wife. Pay attention to nothing at the bottom. Say I agree. That's all. Click. That's all. I agree.
Amen.
So that's a quick intro to the 48 ways. But before we start, you know that there's a book out that you should get. And if you get it, you'll enjoy it. It's of the great Rebbe, that Janet and I know, right? And tonight is his yahrzeit. Tonight is Rav Noach's passing about nearly 10 years ago.
10 years?
I think 10 years ago. Yeah, and as a student of his, when the news of his passing came to me, I immediately tore my garment, as if for a parent or a loved one, because that's what your Rebbe is for you. And the fact that he changed my life and so many other lives, and touched me in a way that I was able to touch others, really just begins to scratch the surface to understand what a giant of a man he was. But clearly, he challenged me because my father, blessed memory, was a very strong man. And I guess in my teenage years I wasn't so strong. I was too busy having a good time. And when I finally began to be 18 years old, so Rabbi said, take stock of yourself and put yourself together and become a man. Oh, that's interesting. A man. So I would sit with Rabbi for hours on end, late at night, and have these really deep philosophical discussions, and which he was noted for and famous for. And I would pepper him with everything that was bothering me. And he had the wisdom, the patience, and the directness to be able to work with me and help me to understand my way through the issues that I was facing. And what was remarkable was that in one particular session, it was about 2 a.m., I was going, Rebbe, I got a headache. This is hard stuff. And he said to me, Zvi, if you sat in one spot long enough, what would happen to your foot? And you fall asleep. Now, if you wake it up, it's going to hurt. Well, Zvi, your head's been sleeping for 18 years. Of course it's going to hurt a little bit when you wake it up. And that's when I really began to understand that there's more to life than news, weather, and sports. And and then there's a whole sense of depth and truth and beauty out there. So he said depth and truth is really synonymous with beauty. That's what beautiful things are. Beautiful things are what you can think of, understand, comprehend. When someday you have this major dilemma and you can't figure out what to do or figure out the meaning of something, and all of a sudden, maybe an hour later or a day later, you get this clarity, this light bulb on top. Whoa! Ein simcha, says the Gemara, ka'atoras haspekos. There's no joy like the elimination of doubt. They're able to resolve a problem. No greater joy than that. And so he wrote this 48 ways, and I wrote a paper on it. I really should have brought it today, but I was really preoccupied with many things. But the 48 ways basically was a self-help program, which was really part of what everybody was doing in the late 60s and early 70s. But he perfected it from a Jewish perspective, and he presented it to thousands of students with the idea that, you know what, Judaism makes sense for you personally, by virtue of the fact that it can help you become a better person and a happier person. And so going through the methods, he used the 48 ways, and I subdivided them. A lot of people have done other subdivisions. I subdivided into 8 categories. And this, you'll forgive me, a block. Block's got a little bit of creativity too. And Rav Noach was always demanded that. He said, don't just mouth me or puppet me or mimic me. I mean, say your own stuff too. So I subdivided the 40 ways into 8 steps, into 8 categories, and each category has a number of steps. The first category had 9 steps, the second had 3, the third had 3, the fourth had 6, and the fifth had 4, and we're now at the 6th category. What were the first 5? So off the bat, the first thing you have to know about health, growth, development, and improvement potential is use your head. There's no greater gift that God gave us in this world. The singular difference between the human being and the animal is the ability to think. And so therefore there's 9 disciplines of how to think properly, how to think accurately, how to gauge truth, how to be able to recognize right from wrong. Well, the very first step is open your mind. Don't close it. Study, think, appreciate, and view everything every second of your life. Don't throw 5 minutes away, because if you throw 5 minutes away, you should equalize that to $50. If I told you that if you daydream for the next 5 minutes, it's going to cost you $50, you will not daydream. You realize that 5 minutes of your life is worth a whole lot more than $50. And in that case, therefore, when someone presents to you an idea that you're ready to dismiss, hey, wait a second. Don't be so fast. Think about it. So I gave the example of a person who, like myself, was walking down Rodeo Drive, and I'm always interested in a good suit. I like to wear suits a lot. And however, realized that Rodeo Drive is a little bit out of my pocketbook, you understand? And so I didn't bother to look at the stores. That's a big mistake. You never know when there's a sale there. Whoa, I can afford that. Open your mind. You never know what truth there is out there unless you're willing to hear other people's viewpoints. When people who are not religious think about or categorize religion in some sort of box in which we are all closed-minded, fanatics, or whatever, it's you're closed-minded because you don't know anything about us. Figure out about us, and you'll figure, or you'll discover that we have a lot of truth, but more than that, we're open. We want to hear truth. So Rav Noach was always open to truth. Man comes to Rav Noach and says, I'm an atheist. So Rav Noach would say, how fascinating. You mean to tell me you've proven that there's no God? Tell me your proofs. Now you understand most people don't have to prove there's no God. Most people have to prove there is one. So Rav Noach turned the tables on the guy. Prove to me there's no God. Well, the guy's got no proofs, obviously. So he stammers and stutters and says, well, I'm not sure about God. Oh, if you're not sure, then come to my yeshiva, come to my school, I'll teach you all about him. What's your problem? You understand? I'm open to hear what you have to say. And so, we always understand that this atheist could be very fascinating. In fact, his questions about God could stimulate you to illuminate a doubt that you were having before and be able to really get a new perspective about God once you handled his question. His question was a stimulus to get a deeper perception. And so that's why thinking is the essence of it all. And thinking and making decisions were the first 9 steps. And there's a lot of beauty on it. If you want to check it out, Jess has got it on YouTube. The second step was, of course, the realization that our world is a world of social interaction. Friends, basically people that we learn from, people that we teach, and people that we are colleagues to or contemporaries. The healthiest relationship, of course, is the contemporary one because it's where you give and take. When it's with elders, you're taking a whole much, and when it's with youngers, you're giving a whole much. And that's not healthy because eventually there's burnout with that. So really, in order to be able to maximize those situations and to truly appreciate your teacher, to truly appreciate your children, you have to teach them, if it's your children, to give back, and if it's your Rebbe, to give back to him. And this way, you're able to develop a healthier approach. And of course, the healthiest, as we said, is your contemporaries, because you're giving and you're taking and you're sharing and you're more comfortable that way. And this is important in terms of our growth in life, because it's not always what you know, it's also who you know. And you got to learn to get along. And in learning to get along, we recognize that the sense of sharing knowledge is going to help us grow for our own knowledge. In other words, if I'm on a what do they call those lines? Assembly line, and I'm trying to do my job, and maybe I'm having a little bit of a problem, whatever, and I tell my buddy next to me, can you help me out this, that, and that? And he shows it to me. It's not only that he's helped me out of this situation, he's shown me something that helps me for the future when I ever have this problem again. And I can do the same back to him. That's where wisdom grows. And when wisdom grows, you grow. So the third step was really getting an education. You got to go to school. If it's a Jewish education, the place to go is none other than a yeshiva. Now, if you think that you can get Judaism by going to a course in comparative religions in the university, you're making a big mistake. And if you think you can get your Judaism by hearing the rabbi's speech once a week on a Shabbos afternoon, when you're anxious to get to the chont and you can't wait for spin, you're timing his speech, the rabbi's too long, So and then there's no way that you could possibly get any real wisdom out of that, or real Judaism. You want Judaism, you got to go to a yeshiva. So in the yeshiva, we talked about the main subjects, and the two main subjects were the written Torah and the oral Torah. In terms of understanding how the Torah sends us the messages of Hashem, how we can understand its validity, how we can understand the divine wisdom, and how it's developed much deeper and with greater insight by the oral Torah and by the rabbinic traditions that teach this oral Torah, which we believe was given originally at Mount Sinai. Now, at this point in time, these 15 steps, or ways, which cover 3 categories, should theoretically produce a good, healthy, functional, successful human being. Problem is that as that human being proceeds through life, particularly by the time he gets to, or she gets to college, there's going to be a lot of issues facing the person. And those issues are physically related and also mentally related. We talked about mental last week. The physical issues that we face are, of course, the challenges and the tragedies of our society, whether it be money, sex, food, drink, sleep, drug addiction, all the issues that are, frankly, are problematic because most of our society is an indulgent one. We just want to have more of it. Our Judaism says abstinence is not the answer. Maybe Catholic priests will find abstinence fine, but we don't promote that. We find that the answer is moderation. Now, moderation is an easy catchphrase for how much you're going to, let's say, get involved. Not too much, not too little, but the real concept is that moderation teaches you really a control of where and when. And that control of where and when teaches you this is the time, this is not the time, I'm in control, I can turn it on or turn it off. I work pretty hard during the 6 days of the week, and I should, because part of the desire for money is a positive, healthy one of getting out there, getting a good job, and being productive. But you gotta learn to take it off. And you gotta realize that Shabbos means that the store closes, the phone closes down, and I'm not interested in any more business for this week. And that I'll pick up the pieces on Sunday morning or Monday morning, whichever. So the idea is that I'm in control. Now, in control doesn't mean that because you're a CEO of a major company in which you are enormously pressured with who knows how many issues you got to face, and I got to get away from it all. So I'm going to San Diego for 3 days. Problem is, dummy, I took my cell phone with me. Now, we don't take our cell phone with us on Shabbos. Anywhere. You understand? So therefore, I tell all my friends, I'm a very, very dedicated rabbi. I'm available 24/6. That's the Zvi Block motto. So we understand that the idea of, let's say, being able to be in control, this means the same thing with the male-female dynamic. Yes, it is a beautiful thing to enjoy intimacy with your wife, with your husband. At the right time, in the right place, and when you're married. Right? That's showing control. Couples that control before their marriage have a beautiful relationship afterwards. Couples that cannot find themselves in a situation of boredom. And frankly, the only thing that keeps you really alive is the continuous discipline of the Nego laws, which tell you this time of the month, husband and wife need their privacy, need their separation, need their personal time for one another, particularly the woman, to the extent where they not even sleep in the same bed. With regards to food, listen, I mean, we have great elaborate feasts on Shabbos, but we also know that on Yom Kippur, you eat nothing. Now people talk to me about, I remember Goyim talking to me about fasting, and they say, you mean not even water? Sorry, not even water. And how long is this for? 24, 25 hours? Well, it's a good thing to start with, learning how to go to bed at night without eating the last thing, without eating the midnight snack. Everyone knows that the most weight you gain in your whole life is midnight snacks, right? You go to bed at 9:30 at night, Yom Kippur night without eating a thing. Wake up in the morning, wow, right? It's a whole different. Point is that at the end of the day, you want to be able to really show that kind of control, whether it's with sleep and the disciplines of that. And once you have that in control and the discipline, then these physical health challenges will not overtake you, but you'll master them. And in so doing, again, become a healthier, happier person. In other words, all that you've accomplished up until now in your intellectual growth, in your social growth, in your educational growth, will move full steam ahead because you're in control of these challenges. If not, all of you accomplished comes to a screeching halt and you are stymied. And all that you've accomplished up until now falls down the tubes and you're a massive failure, despite the fact that you got a BA and an MA and a PhD, and you're nowhere. So, with that in mind, we then found last week that we have what was called mental challenges. Mental challenges we dealt with were the issues of depression, ego, frustration, and paranoia. And we learned that in these areas there are various antidotes to them that the 48 Ways produces to be able to deal with them. And I won't get into the specific now, we did that last week, but those issues were basically, or those responses were basically to try and help us realize that we all have a little bit of those issues. We all have an ego. An outsized one is a major problem. Keep it in perspective, you're okay. We all have fears and paranoia, but don't let it break your reality. We all have depression, but you can't let it overtake you to the point where you can't get out of bed. So we learned in the 48 Ways last week, and it's on YouTube, as I said, if you want to get it, it's all there, that there are ways that our Torah gives us solutions of how to deal with these issues, to learn to handle them, handle our problems, deal with our emotions, and be able to move forward and become the person we can be. At this stage of development, Judaism adds 3 more very interesting dimensions to the human personality, and they are: number 1, which is number 6, right? Which is today, and that's called personal growth. And what that means basically is, how do I take all that I've accomplished and all my efforts to become this better human being and realize the real who I am? And in realizing the real who I am, I'm able to then deal with my talents, my drawbacks, and work with them, and work on all of these teachings in the scope of purely me individually. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. The other two factors, and I say this is not oftentimes done because oftentimes people live within these ivory towers of trying to accomplish all that we talked about, and they don't realize that certain things you're capable of and certain things you're not. You got to be honest, and this self honesty stuff is the kind of thing that makes you be able to move forward with the kind of positivity and elimination of negativity that is almost an absolute imperative to move forward. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. The other two issues, and I'll just give you a preview of them. The other two issues, and now brings me to a point that I have to mention. There is no class next Tuesday because I'll be away out of town. So therefore we'll resume again 2 weeks from today. What we will resume in 2 weeks from today is an absolute total Jewish perception, contribution to the real development of the better person. It is not required by any other ism in the world. It is required by other isms in terms of if you want to become great. We say it's imperative if you just want to become good. You need it. You have to have this. Now, one of them is called emotion, passion. And oftentimes, it's not a necessity. We claim that it is. Rav Noach used to say, are you religious and observant? Well, yes, I am. Well, then why aren't you happy? Enjoy it. In other words, get into something, do it right. You like your job? Do it well. You have a friendship? Maximize it. The idea of getting impassioned about Judaism, about life, about the values and what's going on in our world is really an imperative to a full human being. Person, and you find people in the world that are dispassionate, and that's unfortunate. They're missing a whole beautiful section of life. And that beautiful section, Judaism demands. The last one is the toughest of all, but Judaism doesn't give it as an elective. Judaism demands it, and that's called spiritual. How do you transcend yourself to become and to get into the areas of life and understanding and wisdom that does not meet the eye? Now, most people ignore that, and they may be very well successful in life, but in Judaism you can't be. You can't be a successful Jew unless you truly begin to explore not just what's in front of your nose, but what is beyond your visibility. Then you're really getting into living. So we'll talk all about that good stuff in 2 weeks and 3 weeks to come. For tonight, self-discovery. How do I know who I am? How important is it to get in touch with me? And we'll preface the remark by saying the following. Torah teaches, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. So, that teaches you who's number one in your life.
Hashem.
Me.
By yourself.
Me.
Yeah.
If I don't love me, why should I bother to love you? Now someone comes, knocks on my door and says, hey, look, I'm poor. I have money for dinner tonight. I look at the guy and say, I didn't eat dinner tonight. I'm not giving you a dime. Get out. Love you. I love you just like I love me. I didn't eat. You don't eat. How counterproductive is that, for God's sake? Make sure that you have a nice dinner so that when someone does knock on your door, you'll feel the empathy and the compassion. You've got to feel a certain sense of positivity about yourself in order to be able to stretch out, reach out, which teaches us an amazing lesson. Love operates in terms of priorities. So, obviously, Yaakov Avinu marries supposedly the girl of his dreams, and unfortunately, it was a mistake. His father-in-law tricked him, and he married Leah instead of Rachel. So, he says, I'll work another 7 years, I want Rachel. So he ends up with both of them. And the question is, if Leah was not as intended, with all due respect, why didn't you get rid of Leah? Why not just divorce her? I love you very nice, you're a wonderful person, but you're not for me. Rachel's for me! What do you do with Leah? The answer is, because he learned to love Leah too. Did he love Rachel more? Yes, he did. But did he love Leah any less? No. In other words, love operates in priorities. Do I love my parents? Absolutely. How do I feel about your parents? Well, they're wonderful people. I kind of like them too, but not the same. You see? I love your kids. They're great. I love mine a little bit more. And so the priority concept, the priority concept really becomes expressed in love your neighbor as yourself, where the Torah is referring to your neighbor, your friend, someone whom you share with a commonality of mitzvos, a fellow Jew. So that means that you're not obligated to love non-Jews. In fact, maybe you shouldn't care for them at all. But the Mishnah says the opposite. In fact, in the next section of Passion, we learn that you should oneself, love humanity. So I understand there's a conflict there. Love human beings, love Jews. What are you saying? What we're saying is, sure, you should love everybody, but you should love your own people first. And so, sure, do I feel for the plight of Palestinians that don't have a home? Certainly, but not at the expense of my people. You want to find a place to live? There are 21 Arab countries. We'll send you anyone you want, and we'll give you money too. But you're not staying here and taking over. It's our country, it's our place, and it is me whom I care for first. And it is my people that I care for first. I do hope you will, and I hope you manage to burst through those 21 Arab countries who will not accept you. But I ain't either. And that's the way it is. You gotta have that self-sense of perspective. Then you can really care. I do care for them because I care for me. If I don't care for me, caring for them is a fake. It's a facade. It's false. And so therefore, we learn to understand that the sense of self is extremely important in Judaism. And so we're going to talk about this a little bit more later towards the end. But the one thing you got to remember is Moshe Rabbeinu meeting God at the burning bush. And where God says to him, I want you to take the Jewish people out of Egypt. What does Moshe Rabbeinu say?
Not me.
He didn't say that. He didn't say that. What did he say? He said, who am I? Me Anochi! Who am I? What he was saying was, I don't even know who I am. You want me to take care of the Jewish people? You want to identify yourself as God? I don't know you. I don't know them. I don't know me. How can I know fellow Jews or fellow people when I don't know me? How do I know who you are? So I like to tell the story. Superman, he wasn't real, but it's a cute story anyway. Superman reveals himself for the first time, you saw the movie, by flying up in the air and catching Lois Lane in midair. And you saw that? You saw that, right?
Yeah, I saw
and he's flying up in the air and he catches her, right? And he catches her, right? Catches the damsel in distress. And he says, I got you. And she says, who got you? How did you get up here? In other words, when Moshe Rabbeinu says, who am I? God says, I am with you. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, who are you? Who's God? The discovery of God, which is a major issue in every human being's life, which a person must develop and discover sooner or later for his truth, can only be discovered in the context of, who am I first? So the Almighty responds, and he says, you want to know who you are? You want to know whether you're capable of taking the Jews out? I'll tell you who you are. You're nothing. You're zero without me. With me, you're everything. I am here for you. Who are you? You have me. That's all you need to know. And then all of a sudden you get this perspective of who you are, based upon the sense of God. And at the same time make that double discovery of who's God, who's got you. And all of a sudden the Almighty responds and says, I am the eternal I was, is, and always will be. I was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and I'm the God of you today. And if you think that I'm not eternal, then I must be very old, which I'm not. Right? I'm eternal, I'm forever. So the point is that the sense of self-discovery is essential to us as people to be able to answer the question of God and to be able to answer the question of who's my fellow man. Everyone wants to be a good moral human being. Are you good to your fellow man? Well, or woman. How can you be if you're not good to yourself? You should love your neighbor as yourself. So that's our goal for tonight. Self-discovery. The answer is that there are 4 steps to that. Ways 26, 27, 28, 29. 26 is called in Hebrew Makir et Mekomo. Recognize your place. Know who you are. Recognize your pluses, your minuses. Number 27. Someach bechelko. Be happy with your choice, with your portion. Be happy with what you have. Find a pleasure in who you are. Number 28. Siog ledvorov. Make a fence around your words. In other words, words. Which really, and it really is more than words, frankly. But we're going to talk about words, we're going to focus on them, because that's really the most significant human contribution, communication. A man can hit a baseball or discover the cure for polio, but if he can't communicate, then it's not more worth a whole lot. You've got to be able to communicate. But the point of the communication here is be careful with it. The idea is, if you're in touch with yourself and you're happy with yourself, be careful with yourself. Don't go skydiving. Okay, I'm sorry. But nothing personal for all those that do, but I mean, I won't go on a roller coaster. And I know it's okay, I know. But you got to have some sort of self-caution somewhere. Don't drive recklessly. You know the story of the guy that drove 90 on the freeway, the cop catches him, cop says to him, "You're going 90. He says, "I know. Didn't you know it's illegal?" "I know." "Didn't you know it's not safe?" He says, "I know." "Then why'd you do it?" "Because I didn't see you." Had I seen you, I would have. Now, understand. You should be not driving 90. Whether you see the cop or you don't, that doesn't matter. You got to be some sort of sense of caution and carefulness. We all know, psychologists have confirmed that the teenagers are daredevils. Why are they daredevils? Because that part of the brain that talks about caution isn't developed into the human being until he's at least past 20. Up until then, their mom is crazy. So you understand is that we have to learn how to be careful and to develop caution. The last step, number 29, is Eino machzik tova la'atzmo. Do not hold out good for yourself. In other words, be humble.
Not hold out good for yourself.
Right. No, don't take credit, which means be humble. We're going to talk about that. So let's talk about self-discovery first. Self-discovery is the idea of your pluses and your minuses, and know what talents you have, what talents you don't. Got to be honest. I always had this dream to play center field for the New York Yankees, and it's never gonna happen. And it's just the way it is, But I can do something else to make a contribution, and that's the idea of what you can really become. The moment you stop living in illusions or daydreams, and you really are in touch with not only what you can't do, but particularly what you can become awfully successful at that. And so therefore, the ideas of getting back to Moshe Rabbeinu. What is Moshe Rabbeinu asking God when he says, "Who am I?" He says, "Where do I get this good talent from? Who am I to be able to have that talent to take the Jews out of Mitzrayim?" So Hashem says to him, "You don't, except for me. But you have me." Now, you understand, the reason you have me is because I appeared here to the bush, to you. Now, there are others that saw the bush too. And they saw the phenomenon of it not burning down. But the difference was that the others didn't have that much interest or curiosity to figure out the dilemma, which Moshe saw it as. He saw it as a symbol of the dilemma of life. He said, my God, this may give the answer. Now look, I'm a confused fellow, Moshe Rabbeinu says. I'm born. I know I was born of a Hebrew mother,
I know that I was brought up in the lap of luxury in the palace of Paro, that the daughter of Paro saved my life. I know that I find slavery abhorrent. I know that I was brought up this way, but I have maybe another loyalty this way. And I don't know how to figure myself out. And I'm all confused. And much like a kid born up into marriages, mixed marriages, and which I celebrate Hanukkah, Christmas. I mean, what's my life all about? And in this confusion, he does act maybe a little impetuously. But in reality, he didn't, see? And this is where Hashem takes notice of Moshe Rabbeinu and notice of his unique talents. Moshe Rabbeinu went out and saw the pain of a Jew being struck by an Egyptian. So in seeing that, what Moshe Rabbeinu is experiencing is this absolute, complete empathy for another human being. That is the stuff of which leaders are made of. Leaders are people that care for others to the point of selflessness, where they want to give and be able to create the kind of society, the kind of goodness, the kind of good life that they can bring to people. God sees this in Moshe Rabbeinu. But God also sees that while the sensitivity is there, he's also thoughtful. He's a curious person. Because he looks here and looks there, the Torah says, and then he kills the guy. So the simple pshat is, he looked here, he looked there, no one's looking, he killed the guy. No, that's not the pshat. It's deeper. Rashi says, and the Gemara brings it from the Gemara, that he really looked with a certain sense of perception into the future, into a prophecy or predictions of a future that he did not know he was capable of. And frankly, all of us experience this at one time or another. We all have some sense of a future or a prediction or a thought here or a thought there. And the idea is, of course, that we don't get it as clearly. Moshe Rabbeinu got it more clearly because he was more sensitive. The more sensitive you get, the more intuitive you get, right? You see another person, and for some reason, you can tell in that person's face, he or she's unhappy. Other people walk right by. You're sensitive. You're intuitive. You pick it up. You see? And so Moshe Rabbeinu had that. And he saw that the Egyptian deserved him killed because there was nothing positive about what he had done. And he saw it. The Gemara says he looked into the future. He saw that this Egyptian was striking the Jewish man because the Jewish man had complained to him that he had consorted with his wife. And the Jewish man said, "What are you doing with my wife?" And the Egyptian started to beat him. And then Moshe saw in the future that what they had done behind this Jewish man's back was, and she became pregnant. And she was a woman of poor judgment, and she was very flirty, and she of course brought this upon herself. And she got herself pregnant. And in getting herself pregnant, Moshe thought, well, is there any redeeming factor to this at all? Imagine. A man goes and sleeps with another man's wife, she becomes pregnant, and yet Moshe still tries to find if there's anything positive in this. And when he realizes there's not, and he senses that the child that will be born will in fact cause great trouble to the Jewish people in years to come, though he couldn't put his finger on it exactly, but he became what is world known as the infamous Megadef, as the person who cursed God in the desert, and when Moshe Rabbeinu had to commit his life, had to commit him to a sentence of execution. So Moshe then killed the Egyptian. But he hasn't resolved his basic problems. He runs away to Midian. He finds a group of women in Midian that are by the well, and he sees them being accosted by men who are bringing their flock there first. And he says, and they kick the women out, and you'll water your flock after we're done, and we're male shepherds, and we'll do it first. And Moshe Rabbeinu gets up and saves them. All of a sudden, here is Superman and Batman coming to everybody's rescue. Why? The sensitivity is there. The sense of injustice is there. So, Moshe Rabbeinu sees this phenomenon and says, wow, I'm a completely confused individual. I don't know what's going on in this world. Give me some direction. I'll tell you a funny story of self-discovery. It's a Rav Noach story. A fellow was a confirmed atheist, came to Jerusalem, and he walked to the Western Wall. big tourist attraction in the Western Wall, right? Everybody goes there. And he sees men dressed in black and bearded and praying and wailing and swaying and with tremendous fervor, passion, and prayer. And he says he's bothered by it.
You see right here.
Why is he bothered by it? He's bothered because it seems that he doesn't have it, and he's jealous. He wants to have it. And so what happens? He looks up to the heavens, to God, and he says, and this became known afterwards as the world famous atheist's prayer. How does an atheist pray? Watch how an atheist prays. And he does. I'm here at the Beagle Shul, goodbye. And so he looks at me, bye. I said, bye. Okay, so he said, look, I don't believe in you. I think you're a fraud. But in the event that you're really true, I challenge you now, show me a sign. And this really happened, because months later, he confessed to this, to having done this. And as he finished this atheist prayer, right, show me a sign you're real, there was a man who patrolled the Western Wall for about 35 years, 40 years. His name was the world famous Meir Schuster. Meir Schuster. Meir Schuster is responsible for 10 to 20,000 Jews returning to Judaism. What did Meir Schuster do? He was the most unlikely candidate. He had no personality, very soft, very gentle, very timid, a regular yeshiva guy. But he felt it was his obligation to get out there and meet people. In fact, he never had an opening line. So you know how he figured it out? He took off his watch and he said, what time is it? And in an opening line. So he walked over to this guy and tapped him on the shoulder and said, hi. So the guy turns around to see this black-coated, black suit, bearded fellow with a hat on. What do you want? So, but Meir, a little pushed aside, he says, well, I really wanted to invite you to visit a yeshiva. What the bleep is a yeshiva? By this time, Meir Schuster's turning colors. I mean, he's never heard these words before, you understand? And he says, Meir says to himself, I gotta think fast. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose this guy. So he comes up with the idea, a yeshiva is a place where you can find God. Ding. The light bulb. So he goes over and he comes and he learns, and he really finds a whole new life for himself. And he's fond of telling people that this was his world famous atheist prayer, a prayer that truly challenges God. Well, anyway, after 6 to 8 months of learning, he decides to come back to America to learn in the yeshiva in America. And as he is ready to go, he bids farewell to everyone, and he takes his baggage and gets to the central bus station in Yerushalayim to take a bus to the airport, to Tel Aviv airport. And as he's standing there in the Tel Aviv airport, he looks afar and he sees an absolutely striking woman. Someone extremely pretty, someone that really catches his eye. And he's about to make a move and he says, wait a second, I can't do that anymore. I'm a religious fellow. Just can't go and we don't do that in our society. We're more respectful than that. So he looks up to the heavens to God and he says, I'm going to ask you one more favor. I would like to someday find a girl like that. I'm not going to ask any more favors after that. And that was the end of the prayer. Anyway, he gets on a bus, he gets on a plane, gets back to he comes to America, and he makes his dwelling place in Boston. And in Boston, he joins a shul, a young Israel, and he goes to shul, he becomes a regular there. And one night, he looks, as they're walking out of shul, and he sees a woman that strikingly bears resemblance to that woman in Jerusalem. It's a true story. And he actually walks over to her and says, pardon me for being so forward or whatever, but I must tell you, I think I may have seen you once before. And she says, that's right, in Jerusalem. I saw you too. And the happy ending is that they did get married.
Which is kind of beautiful, Eddie, right? And he looked up at God and said, 2 for 2, you did good. You understand? That's the idea of discovering God. And the idea of discovering God is you're interested enough, curious enough. You're not ready to walk away. Man, just tapped him on the shoulder, let him walk away. I don't believe in this junk. But he didn't. He was open. That's what Hashem saw in Moshe Rabbeinu. You're open. You got the qualities I'm looking for. Furthermore, you went to visit the bush when everybody else could have and didn't. Because they were busy. You dropped everything, thinking this wasn't important anymore. Values and truth was. You're the man I want. And that's why I'm appearing to you today. And so all of a sudden, Moshe Rabbeinu gets a perspective of who he is, of how God is in his life in totality. And then he begins to get this perspective of, now move forward with this and take the Jews out of Mitzrayim. Move forward with this and become the best you could be and impact the world forever. And so that's the idea of self-discovery. Who am I? I am what Hashem has challenged me with, or what Hashem has directed me with. Hashem saw that I would never make a good center fielder. So that's why he didn't give me those talents. But Hashem gave me other talents and said, use them. And everyone's got to do that same thing in self-discovery. Hamakiris Makom will recognize who I am, what my talents are, what my limitations are, what I can do, and what I can't do. But what you'll discover if you move with this particular way is that you are capable of a whole lot more than you think. You can do a whole lot more. We sell ourselves short. The greatest worry is not that we believe we could do more. The greatest worry is that we believe we can do less. We can push ourselves. We can become better. We can do it. It's within our can. No, it's not. It's impossible. Well, I mean, Moshe could have said that. Moshe, you want me to take the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim? Mitzrayim is known as Mitzrayim, a place of gates where not one refugee or one escapee ever escaped ever. And you want me to take out 5 million people? You can do it. You can do it. That's the idea of recognizing who you are. The second one is, Somech B'chelko, enjoy it. Be happy with it. It's talking about being happy in general. Persons should learn to be happy. Feel positive. Think about life in a positive sense. What I have is beautiful. You want more? Not necessarily. In fact, that's the classic confrontation between Yaakov and Esau. Right? Jacob and his brother Esau. Esau says, I have lots. Actually, Rav. Yaakov says, actually, cool. I got everything I need. I got it all. I'm happy. I don't need more. When you get to that perspective where Ezo Asher, who's the rich person? Hasamech B'chelko, that you're happy with your portion. That you're happy with what you got. I'm happy with my talents. I'm happy with my good looks. I'm happy with the money I have. And I don't need to look like Rock Hudson or whoever the great good-looking guy is.
What year is it, Rabbi?
He's a good-looking guy.
He's a good-looking. You gotta admit it. That's for sure. But I'm sure they have better ones these days. Who's it, Patrick Swayze or something? No, who's the best looking actor these days? Whatever they are. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm happy. I think I'm a good looking guy. Frankly, I also think I'm I got all that I need. I got Hashem. I can pay my bills. I'm a happy guy. I got this kind of car. I don't need that kind of car. I'm really happy with what I got. That is the concept of achieving positivity, of achieving happiness in general. Rav Noach says, happiness doesn't happen. Happiness is achieved. Happiness is what you have to work on. Well, every one of the steps of the 48 ways, what you got to work on and achieve. If you buy the book here, you'll see exercises.
You'll see that there are things you will learn or work on and try to master it and try to integrate these thoughts into your personality. Learning how to be happy with what you have, learning how to be positive, is integrating into your personality. To do that, that's a whole state of mind. And that is more than just a achievement, that's an obligation. That's something you are obligated to work on. You're obligated to be rejoicing. That's what Rav Noach used to say. If you're doing it already, take pleasure in it. But the pleasure principle becomes bigger when you skip over to number 29. And that's called the pleasure principle. Now, everybody knows, if you want to, if you don't know it, you should know it. Rav Noach, one of his greatest contributions was the teaching of the 5 levels of pleasure. Now, I don't know if I have time to teach you the 5 levels of pleasure, but the 5 levels of pleasure postulate that their goal of life is to have pleasure. And he learned that from the Ramchal. Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the author of the Mesilas Yesharim, the Path of the Just, the great Kabbalist of 250 years ago, taught us, Ha'adam nivra lehisaneg. A man was created for pleasure. I mean, let's put it this way. Your parents, they got together and they said, we want a child. And out you came. Now, what happened to you? Why did they have you for? Why did they want you? Because they wanted to give you pleasure. What other reason? Oh, I don't know. I have a kid because I want to make him miserable. It's ridiculous. You can have a lot more pleasure without the kid. I want to give my child pleasure. That's what Hashem said, all God's children. I want to give you pleasure. That's the pleasure principle. Now, in the idea of pleasure, we understand that whenever you're given a gift, the first thing you do is thank the giver. That's called appreciation. Well, appreciation also connects back to the happiness factor. People who are happy appreciate what gifts they have. They also appreciate the people that gave them those gifts, that contributed along the way. So let's say I'm achieving a great success in life and I'm becoming whatever it is in this goal, and maybe I'll achieve a great success in this particular task. Maybe a great doctor or a great this or a great lawyer, whatever I am. Do I appreciate all the people that helped me along the way? God, for a starter, mother and father, my teachers, my friends, my roommates, anybody at all that gave them the slightest contribution to your life, you must owe forever. David HaMelech writes, King David writes, if you learned one letter, one piece of information from somebody, he's your Rebbe forever. He may not be your main Rebbe. You may have another Rebbe who taught you more, another Rebbe who taught you more, another Rebbe who taught you more. But the point is that along the way, a lot of different people stepped in to make it happen for me. Appreciate every single one of them. By so doing, you're not only performing the mitzvah makir tov of appreciation, but let's understand appreciation from a historic perspective. And from a Jewish historic perspective. But you're not only showing appreciation, you're also at the same time recognizing the beauty of the gift. This guy, that's all he ever did for me, is give me an appointment with someone who got me the job. That's all he did, was give me an appointment. I appreciate it. So, Yosef interprets 2 dreams. One for the baker, one for the butler. Right? You familiar with the story? So, the butler, of course, it wasn't such a good interpretation. He died. The butler, right? He got a good interpretation. Your dream is going to send you back to Paro, out of prison, and back to your own station as the chief bartender and butler of Paro. He gets there. In 3 days, Yosef's interpretation of his dream is totally correct. In 3 days, he's free. He's back at his job, and guess what? He forgets all about Joseph. Now, you are a rat and a stinker. Thank you for sharing with me.
So much.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Take care.
You are a rat and a stinker. I mean, that's the proper word for the guy. person doesn't appreciate it. I help you, I give you interpretation, I help direct you. And by the way, the Talmud teaches that oftentimes the fulfillment of a dream goes by the interpretation. So the interpreter has a whole lot of power in his hands. For us as Jews, it's fundamental. Why? Because Jews are from the tribe of Judah. We are Yehudim from the tribe of Yehudah. Yehudah was the fourth child born to Leah. Leah, in her vision, realized that she and her husband are going to build the tribes of Israel, and she has her sister, Rachel, and the two concubines. Realizing that Yaakov has 4 wives, she assumes that each wife is going to get 3 children. All of a sudden, she gets a fourth named Yehudah, and she says, "Apamodes Hashem, thank you, God, for what I don't deserve. I thought I was getting 3, I got 4." Forever and ever, we are known as Jews, people of appreciation. When the nation of Moab was asked to just let the Jews march through the country and not hurt them as they marched on the way in the desert to Israel from Egypt, they tried to impede their progress instead and hurt them and harm them, curse them, tempt them, and they owe the Jews a lot. If it wasn't for the Jewish people, for Abraham, our father, who prayed for his nephew Lot to survive so that Lot would have a child named Moab, there wouldn't be a Moab altogether. And that rule remains posthumous forever and ever. Someone did you a favor, someone did your father a favor, someone did your great-grandfather a favor. You have appreciation of this great-grandson, if you get it. So therefore, the idea is that appreciation is fundamental to our instincts. Says the Torah, the nation of Moab is not allowed to convert. The nation of Moab may not join us, may not marry with us, because they don't have our traits, our qualities. What are our qualities? Appreciation, thanksgiving. It's in our genes. They don't have it. So understand that this is fundamental to our religion, fundamental to our people. Clearly, therefore, the idea of having that appreciation brings you into a level of positivity. I thank you, and I thank you, and I thank you, and I thank all of you for coming tonight. Without you guys, you don't make it happen, right? So that kind of appreciation makes for a happier person, and it makes for happier persons who receive that appreciation. Everyone loves being appreciated, right? So therefore, clearly, this is something that will promote happiness. And happiness must be an intrinsic part of your independent and unique personality. You gotta know who you are, know what your talents are, know what you can do, be grateful to those that help you along the way, and be appreciative to the point where you'll rejoice with every gift you get. If you don't rejoice with the gift, then you're not appreciative of what you got. And if you're not appreciative of what you got, then you're certainly not going to rejoice with it. Big deal, you gave me a Torah, who cares? But if you love the Torah, then you appreciate God. So it's all working hand in hand, appreciation and happiness. Now, in that regard, therefore, we'll skip over to number 29, and we'll say, do not take credit for yourself, and that means a very simple thing. You're not allowed to take credit for anything at all. And you're not allowed to be prideful of anything at all. It's all God's gift. What made you smart? God. What made you handsome? God. What made you successful? God. When you get all that in perspective, then you realize that it's forbidden to take pride in your accomplishments. What are you permitted to take instead? Said Rav Noach, pleasure. Enjoy it. You got all this success, all this happiness, all this good things going on in your life. Take pleasure in it. But the worst crime you can commit is the loss of humbleness and the promotion of arrogance in thinking that I am just brilliant, handsome, and on top of it all, very powerful and very influential. It's all thanks to Hashem, whatever you can accomplish in this world. Realizing that, you then get the idea that I'm going to stand up in front of the classroom and say, ladies and gentlemen, I want your applause. Why? Because I have a 98.6 temperature. Big deal. Who gave you normal temperature? Who made sure that you're healthy and not sick? Thank you, Hashem. So that's what knocks down, and the bottom line between the atheist and the theist and the believer is the difference of really recognizing your own limitations. Any person that seeks control or tries control is no longer believing in God. Now let's say he's a believer in general, but for that moment he got panicky and he wants to control the situation. For that moment, his faith left him. Joseph tells the butler, I just interpreted the dream for you, right? And you're going out there? Please tell Paro to get me out of prison. You're out of prison now, right? I gave you an interpretation. Help me get me out of here. And listen, I did you a favor. And Joseph was punished, and he had to stay in for an extra 2 years in prison to learn that you don't take pride or think that it's your success. The fact that you interpreted the butler's dream accurately is because of Hashem, not you. He did, for a moment, a momentary lapse in Joseph's life in which he forgot about Hashem. So now 2 years later he comes in front of Paro because the stupid and ingrateful butler remembered him. And Paro says to him, I have some dreams too. And I heard about you. You're a good dreamer. You're a good interpreter of dreams. And what did Joseph say? No, it's Hashem. Biladai. Hashem yitain shalom Paro. Hashem will give Paro's answers. Now, he's putting himself in a lot of danger because he just got called up from prison, right? And being called up from prison, you must have been there for something. What'd you do? And we all know Joseph's innocent. But Paro doesn't know that. So Paro's ready to give him maybe a position in the court if he does a good job and giving a good dream and explanation, right? And he says, I don't want any credit. What, do you want to go back to prison? What are you doing here? I don't care what you do. Hashem will take care of me. I have complete faith in Hashem. If you want me to help, I'll be glad to. But I'm not looking for brownie points, and I'm not looking for position, and I'm not looking for your accolade. And I'm not looking for your pardon or your freedom. What is Paro's reaction to that? Whoa, this guy's sincere. This guy's not buttering me up. This guy really means it. He really wants to help me. Rich people, powerful people are always suspicious of people around them. What do you want from me? What do you want? What's in it for you? Right? They can't believe that some guy will step up and say, I don't want anything. I'm just here to help. But that's what Yosef said. But why did he say it? Because he didn't need Paro's help anymore. Because he had trust in Hashem. So even if many of us have momentary lapses in our faith, and we start to seek control and take credit, and by taking credit means seek control, it means since I'm the one that's going to do it, I got to take the control, and when I'm finished and I'm successful, it's all about me. And that is where God departs. So if you really want, and that's when God departs, then you become arrogant and repugnant and disgusting, and nobody want to be with you. And you're an imminent failure. And even if you're not a failure, because your investments are doing well, who likes you? Now, I'm not here to discuss President Trump's policies, but I'll tell you this much. He ain't winning any popularity contests. Come on, guy. The shirt is too starched. You can't live that way. Come down. But coming down, you embrace God. By God embracing you, you become superpower. So that it all works in hand. And that's working with myself to build myself up to be the best I can. Which means simply, yes, know who you are, be happy with your talents, know you can do better, and at the same time, realize that when you do accomplish, it's all Hashem. When you do that, then you become empowered even further. And you can do more than you ever believed it. Because now you got God on your side. So, The last point I want to make for the night is number 28. Be careful, be cautious. It says be careful and cautious with your words. Basically what we have to know is the words that we say we're responsible for, and we have to keep our words when we promise things. And we have to realize that if we are not careful and we don't set up barriers to protect us, we will fall into the kind of failure or pit or abyss, if you want, that will disallow us to be the person we can be. If you fall into, if you're not cautious, I mean, you gotta take care of yourself. So of course you gotta take care of yourself physically. Of course you gotta listen to the doctor. Of course you have to take your medicine. Of course these are things, right? But it also means that you gotta be careful to the extent where you know who you are, and you know what you could be susceptible to. You know what you're tempted with. You know what your harm is. You know what your problem is. That's not somebody else's problem, it's yours. Again, personal. Be aware of who I am and my problems, my issues, and take caution. How do you take caution? The Hebrew word is syog. What's a syog? A fence. Which of course is what Chazal do for us. How many laws of kosher come out of rabbinic teachings? Be careful, watch out. So the Torah teaches, you should not mix a goat in its mother's milk. And out of that we get this whole separation between milk and meat that is absolutely extreme. I mean, not only can't you cook it together, because the rabbis learned that you also can't eat it together, but you can't even eat it from the same pot or the same dish. And you can't even cook the same dishes, meat and dairy, together. And you gotta wait 6 hours after you eat the meat before you can time and indulge in dairy. Why? Why all the extremism? Pesach. You gotta scour your home from top to bottom. So you invite a maid to come into the house, right? And of course, you are helping along with the maid, you're cleaning too. And the maid looks at you, look, you're nuts. What are you cleaning? You're cleaning the crumbs on the floor, and you're cleaning over here. Or there might be some crumbs over here. Maids don't clean that way, they clean, boom, 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 boom. But not you. You're extreme, you're a fanatic. Oh, there's crumbs, chametz. Why the extremism? Because the extremism is what we call extreme caution. No different than people going on a health diet. Being careful with themselves. Listen, be honest with you and me. If tomorrow night you decided to have a little hot dog, a hamburger, it wouldn't hurt, would it? I mean, it's like your steady diet. So believe me, it won't hurt one bit. But we're more careful. We're very health conscious. We're so health nutty that I won't touch the hot dog. Okay, listen, everybody to their own. I'm a vegan. Everybody to their own. But one thing's for sure. All of these things are what we call extra cautionary, right? Extra protection, extra careful. Now me, I say I won't skydive, not for a $25,000 donation. I won't skydive. It's just that's the way it is, because everybody knows what their personal issues are. But the point is that you do have to exercise general caution, and particular with your issue. I have a particular health issue. I have a particular mental issue. I get depressed easy. I have to be on guard against that more than maybe the rest of you, because that may be my issue. You see, but self-identification is what we're talking about here. Who am I? Recognize your place. It's all about being personal with yourself. Because if you are, then all that education and all the growth that you've experienced up until now throughout the 48-way system can move forward and be maximized. But you can't do that if you're not sure who you are, and you're not sure what your pluses are and what your minuses are, and you're not sure how to move forward with that, and you're not sure how to be careful. Now you have a particular problem. Me. I eat a little too much, so I have to be more careful than most others. It's just that's the point. The point is recognition, self-recognition. Self-recognition, of course, should be a pleasant experience. It should be an experience in which you really are happy with who you are. So I tell people, I wake up in the morning and I look at my worst, I look at the mirror and I say, you are beautiful. And everyone's obligated to do that. Everybody. You're all beautiful. Right?
Thank you.
No makeup is on. No makeup is on, right? And you're beautiful. You understand? That's the point. The point is that sense of self that is not only discovered, self-awareness that's not only discovered, but it's also discovered within the light of all that I'm learning to become better, and I'm happy with it. And I'm also motivated. I can be better than I am. I can do better, right? And I got to be careful with my problems, personal, to make sure that I can hit my peak and my zenith. And once we've accomplished all of this, we got 2 weeks to work on it, folks. In 2 weeks we'll meet back and we'll talk about how to become passionate. Thank you all for coming. Please sign in.